Hello, I'm Michael.
I'm Sally, and this is Wrestle MSX.
Drew McIntyre opened the show. He said he's looking forward to taking on Damien Priest, but where he goes, his backup always goes too. Barely 30 seconds into his speech, and Priest's music hits. Priest, accompanied by Balor and McDonagh, tells Drew he doesn't need his crew or anyone else to put him down because I'm Damien Priest. Priest then proposes a fight between McIntyre and Balor. If you win, Drew, then there'll be no Judgement Day at Clash at the Castle. Balor wins though, and Judgement Day get to be at ringside, Priest offers McIntyre. I hope you shake my hand when I'm standing here next week as champion, Drew responds before leaving the ring.
We go backstage to the Judgement Day clubhouse and we see Liv Morgan waiting there for Dominik. You can't be here, Dom tells her as he arrives. Liv gives him her hotel key card, practically begging him to come to her room so she can call him daddy.
Nobody wants that. Iyo Sky's out next for her match with Lyra Valkyria. Iyo accompanied by the rest of Damage Control, Dakota Kai and Kairi Sane. A suplex into a bridging cover gets Lyra a 2 count, then a second row moonsault to the outside by Sky takes out Valkyria. Back from the break we see a missile dropkick and a fisherman suplex by Lyra, but all for just a 2. Valkyria then hits the Nightwing and covers Sky again. It's too close to the ropes though, and as the ref's about to hit 3, Dakota Kai breaks the pin from the outside. Valkyria then takes out Kai and Sane before hitting a tornado DDT on Sky. Lyra then goes for the Nightwing again, but Iyo turns it into a crucifix pin and picks up the win, much to my surprise because Lyra was on a bit of a roll, I thought. After the match, Damage Control enter the ring and attack Valkyria, but Caden Carter and Katana Chance run out and make the save. Look out for a 6-woman tag coming soon.
Back at Shea Judgement Day, and Dirty Dom tells JD, Balor and Carlito that Liv left her hotel room key card. That's cool, Carlito says, with a huge grin on his face. No, that's not cool, Daddy Balor says.
We then see Miz backstage looking for R-Truth, asking Sami Zayn if he's seen him. Zayn replies, no, before Miz wanders off. Zayn then bumps into the Alpha Academy, asking them how they put up with Chad Gable. Otis says without Gable, he's nothing. Zayn tells him that that's not true.
Once more back at JD's lair, not McDonagh, Judgement Days. Priest said he's heard all about the Liv Morgan shenanigans and the key card. Balor tells him not to worry. Priest then looks down at the table the key card was on and it's vanished. My money's on Carlito.
Yeah. LWO's Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee are out next with Selena Vega, and they'll be joined by Braun Strowman in a 6-man tag match against Judgement Days, Finn Balor, Jade McDonagh and Dominik Mysterio. As the LWO were coming out, we get the dreaded QR code.
Upon scanning the code, you get taken to a countdown timer, marking down days, hours, minutes and seconds. There are also links on the page to the Heaven's Gate looking webpage, which does have a new entry. Plus there's a link on the page to all the Plutos in the circle. Back to the timer. It's set to hit 0 on next week's Raw, so they're definitely coming.
Back to LWO versus Judgement Day. Judgement Day dominate most of the match, with Rey taking the brunt of things. Eventually, Dragon Lee gets the hot tag and takes it to Carlito. Liv Morgan then comes down to the ring and gets on the apron. Dominik goes round to her asking why she's out here. Morgan then gets knocked off the apron by the in-reaction and onto Dom. They both fall onto the ground, Liv fully on top of Dominik. All hell then breaks loose, with Strowman finally getting tagged in. After rounding the ring and collecting everyone on the Strowman Express, Carlito eats a running power slam from the Monster Among Men in the middle of the ring. Dragon Lee then splashes Carlito from atop Strowman's shoulders and picks up the win, sending the LWO home victorious.
Next, we see Ricochet and Ilja Dragunov in the locker room. Dragunov telling Ricochet that he's going to slay the monster that is Bron Breakker.
After the break, we see Sami Zayn taking on Otis. Before the match, Zayn addresses the crowd, saying at Clash at the Castle, he's putting an end to all this. He then gets interrupted by Chad Gable and the Alpha Academy. Gable calls Zayn pathetic and tells him that the Alpha Academy are all good and that they trust him. Zayn questions their happiness. Gable then tells Zayn that he's unleashing a brutal version of Otis, a version of Otis you've never seen. Otis did indeed take it to Zayn, and while out of it, Gable offered Otis some words of advice. But unfortunately, as Otis turned back into the ring, he was hit by a haluva kick. Zayn then going on to pin Otis and pick up the win. Gable then entered the ring and beat on Sami. Gable then held Zayn up, encouraging Otis to hit him. Of course, Otis declined. Gable dropped Zayn to the mat to berate Otis, slapping him twice, and they were good slaps as well. This seems to work of a fashion, and Otis does end up putting the hurt on Zayn. After he's dealt with Zayn, Otis turns toward Gable, actually threatening to hit him. His arm raised, fist clenched, ready to strike. Inevitably, Otis doesn't and leaves the ring. It was pretty tense, I will say that.
Backstage, we see Miz still looking for R-Truth. He finds him coming out of a side room, having spoken to a fortune teller. Truth tells Miz they've got a tag team match tonight against the APA. It turns out it was the AOP. Damn!
Up next we have a women's tag team match, Alba Fyre and Isla Dawn versus Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark, with the women's tag champions Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill sat at ringside. Baszler puts Fyre into the Kirifuda clutch and wins by submission, all while looking at the tag champions.
Next match we have Bron Breakker versus Ilja Dragunov. It was a pretty even contest, no one really taking advantage. A power slam gets Bron a 2 count, and then Dragunov hits Bron with a Constantine special but is unable to get the cover. 3 suplexes and a pin attempt only get Dragunov a 2. Ilja then hits a coast to coast and a senton on Breakker, but still only manages a 2 count. A Steiner line gets followed up by a spear from Bron, but just before the spear hits, Dragunov gets a knee up. Dragunov follows up with a H-bomb. Both competitors then end up outside the ring, with Breakker dropping Dragunov onto the announcer's table and then the ring barrier. Back in the ring, Bron Breakker hits a spear, but ring-smart Dragunov rolls out. Unfortunately, so does Breakker. Breakker rounds the ring and spears Ilja. Bron rolls back into the ring, leaving Dragunov to face the count-out. As the ref hits 9, Dragunov manages to roll back in. I mean, maybe he should have just stood outside. Breakker runs the ropes twice, picking up incredible speed before hitting Dragunov with one final spear. Game over. Bron makes the cover and wins. After the match, Bron gets jumped by Ricochet as Bron was about to spear Dragunov, with Ricochet drop-kicking Bron over the crowd barrier.
Back at the Judgement Day clubhouse again, and we see Dom Dom pulling Liv Morgan's hotel room keycard out of his pocket and putting it on the table. Priest then tells the gang that we need to concentrate on Judgement Day business. As they all agree and fist bump, Balor slides the keycard off the table and into his own pocket. Naughty Balor.
After the break, we have Awesome Truth against the AOP for the World Tag Team Championship. Karrion Kross breaks up a 5-knuckle shuffle attempt by Truth and Miz by grabbing them from outside the ring as they bounce off the ropes. Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston then come down to the ring and attack Kross, but Razor comes to his rescue. Back in the ring with the ref distracted, Truth hits Akam with a belt from behind. As he turns to confront Truth, Miz rolls Akam from behind and gets a 3 count. Awesome Truth retain the title.
Backstage once more, and we see Bron Breakker spearing Dragunov and then completely destroying Ricochet, who is helping Dragunov back to the locker room. Breakker finishes Ricochet off by putting him through a car window screen with a jumping power slam off some steps. Ouch.
Back from the break, we see Ricochet being carted off into an ambulance. With his contract coming up and apparently not signing a new one, that's probably him written out. Bye, Ricochet.
Final match of the night, Drew McIntyre versus Finn Balor, and remember, if Balor wins, the Judgement Day get to be at ringside for McIntyre and Priest's title match at Clash at the Castle. A massive belly-to-belly on Balor by Drew puts him over the announcer's table before they get back into the ring. Drew sets up the Claymore, but Balor counters with a sling blade. Balor then goes upstairs for the coup de grace, but McIntyre stops it with the Glasgow Kiss, then superplexes Balor back onto the mat, but only gets a 2 count.
A Future Shock DDT puts Finn down again, but as Drew sets up for the Claymore, Priest heads down the rampway and stands on the apron. As the camera pans back, we see Carlito standing opposite Priest on the other apron, and finally JD standing on the ring apron facing the hard camera. JD gets pulled into the ring by Drew and Claymored. Balor grabs his opportunity and rolls up Drew, but only for a 2 count. He then goes up top for the coup de grace. McIntyre rolls out of the way, claymores Balor and picks up the win. So no Judgement Day ringside for Priest at Clash at the Castle. Raw goes off air with Priest and McIntyre staring at each other in the middle of the ring.
And we hope you can join us later this week for our predictions video for Clash at the Castle. All being well, that should be up Wednesday, Thursday possibly, so keep your eye out for that. Once again, thank you for watching.
And we hope to see you again soon.